Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Just kidding, it's our very first video, and what we're bringing you today is a Hunt Showdown review. It's IPP My Kids IRL from the Brothers Gaming Network, and my co-host.
And this is Sir Chubulous. And guys, just between the two of us, we have 37 years of experience covering all types of games, from MMOs, first-person shooters, RPGs, and across all consoles, PCs, and mobile games, guys. And we just feel like there are just so many reviews that are going out there, very cheesy guys, that even some are getting paid to do those reviews. They're very biased guys, and we're just going to give you the hard facts of these games and cover what you need, guys. Whether you need to be spending your money on these games, whether you need to be waiting, or just not buying them at all and just staying away from them completely. Furthermore, IPVP and myself are brothers in real life. We bounce off each other very well, guys, and we just have so much content waiting for you guys. And if you want to support us, please consider leaving a like, comment, and subscribe. It's going to help us continue to put out these videos. Please consider also follow us on our social medias: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Now, first start off, guys, let's define Hunt Showdown. Hunt Showdown, defined by Steam, is a thrilling, high-stakes PvPvE first-person shooter. Take down nightmarish monsters as you compete for the bounties that will bring you glory, gear, and gold in this unforgiving and unforgettable online multiplayer experience. And furthermore, we see that there's popular user-defined tags for this game, and those include multiplayer, hunting, online co-op, horror, FPS, and there's another one that I would throw in here, and that's Western. So, and then just leading us off into gunplay and the gunplay mechanics that are just involved in this game. I just find that this game is genuinely a great shooter. There's great elements of the guns that are involved. Again, we're talking about with a Western atmosphere here that's going on, and so we're seeing guns that are lever action, that are more revolver based.
And kind of leading on from there, these guns, they're almost meant to feel finicky. The iron sights are not too good at times. You're gonna find yourself shooting at something, and sometimes it might not feel like it lines up at times. The reticules around whenever you get it, they don't necessarily feel natural in a way. I almost feel like they might even be removed because it kind of takes away from the Western feel. It almost feels like whenever you shoot them, they don't exactly land where you want them to be. It almost feels like where the gun's pointing on your hip might not land where you want it to. And this kind of leads into the whole, it's old, it's in the 1980s or 90s, and it's meant to feel this way. It's meant to feel a little finicky. You can definitely tell that they poured a lot of interest, and the mechanics of the gunplay are important, but a lot more about what the gunplay feels like is how flanking feels, how you position yourself in the game, and how much sound is important. So leading on from there, we're going to talk about how important sound is in this game. Now, onto what I'm using personally as a headset. It is the Sennheiser HD 280 Pro headphones. These have really been a really good headset. I've picked up sound on numerous occasions, and I'm going to lead you into what Chubulous is using as well for an example.
And I have the Runmiss 7.1 surround sound. This goes across all different consoles, but it also covers PC, and is somebody that's also played another sound intensive game like Escape from Tarkov. I found that it's with a headset of a lower quality like this, you find I have trouble locating sounds exactly where people are at and where the sounds are coming from. It's much more difficult like that.
And so what we're gonna do is I'm gonna roll a clip of. You're right, the other side. What we've seen is, even when I'm spectating Chubulous, I'm still actually being able to point out, as a backseat gamer, I'm still able to actually tell him and pinpoint out where the players are even listening from. I can pick it up really well on my headphones, and this is, averaging maybe about $100 price point, which is important to know that if a gameplay experience is heavily impacted by your headphones, should you consider getting this game? Because I feel with this headset, it does give you an advantage. You can hear things extremely well, especially footsteps. I cannot tell you how many times I've been listening around, and I can just tell from, there's almost like these areas, these alcoves, and you can definitely tell where someone's coming out of. There's little branches coming out of it, and you can really hear this with the sound impact of this game.
Definitely
And
the
that,
crows too.
yeah. And with the crows coming in and the branches being a large part of it, its sound is so important in this game. You can try and throw people off as much as you can. I feel like if you're playing loud most of the time, if you're playing in a group that's new, I wouldn't even bother worrying about crows. I wouldn't bother worrying about all the sound too much. And this will kind of lead us into how we feel about the atmosphere of the game.
Yeah, and so with the atmosphere of the game, guys, you're really going to be looking at the Louisiana bio type of atmosphere terrain. It's really swampy, and again, the game is set in a western, late 1800s, early 1900s year era, and so everything is going to be a little old timey with all the little details that are associated with the buildings and all the different settings as well. There's slaughterhouses, there's little docking, fishing posts that are off of the water, so it's really great environment to go in and check out and experience as you're going in and killing, locating hunters and locating the bosses as well with the clues. And it's a really great atmosphere, and I've just learned to really appreciate it as we've gone through it. And so going into just the zombies and the special units that you can experience in this game, guys, starting off with just zombies, these are your basic zombies, guys. They are nothing special. They run after you. Some of them are a little bit faster, and once they know where you're at. But as far as the special units, that's when we start to go into a lot of different special units. We have your big ones that are the meatheads, and those are the ones you gotta watch out for, because they can one or two shot you if you get caught close to them. Then you have the hive. They'll send out swarms of pests towards you. They'll poison you. They mostly will also blind your vision as well. They make it very hard to, where you just have to run away from them. They're really ridiculous if you get caught in them. And the Emolator too. Those are the ones that you just want to avoid at all costs. Again, we were just talking about sound. Those, if you get caught with one of those, you can just forget any stealth mechanics you were trying to employ. If you were sneaking, if you were just trying to avoid sound in general, people are going to know exactly where you are if you try to shoot one of these things. Regardless of the gunshot, this guy will blow up as soon as you hit him, whether you pierce him with a knife or you have to kill him with blunt damage from your rifle. And then also just water devils too. Water devils are these tentacles and this mess of body parts that you can find in the water, that as soon as you step in the water, you will hear it, and it makes the back of your neck kind of crawl a little bit, and when you hear it, because it's that creepy noise, and you know if you don't get it out of the water soon, you are done for. So that leads us into the solo, duo, trio aspect of this game.
Now, coming in from the solo versus duo and kind of trio aspect, because I do consider them to kind of be very similar in a way, because you are able to turn off trios, which is important to know that if you're playing as a duo, like how me and Chubulus were, you were able to actually flip off trios and play as a group. That is such an aspect I wish I could also opt in kind of every other game, especially if you're starting out. You don't really want to get swarmed by groups of heavily armed players in other games. You don't want to deal with clans in other games. You don't want to deal with the large groups. That is a good aspect for learning the game. And in the trio aspect, if you do decide to choose to randomly group up, which is what we did, depending on how you would like to, go into the game and have your voice comm VoIP turned on and communicating via the in-game markers isn't bad. You're able to kind of get people's attention. You're able to move towards objectives. But you will notice in this game too, you have a outline around yourself. No matter where you are, you can turn around and you can immediately notice. And how far away they are, really depends on how much you see them. If they look like an ant, you're probably pretty far away from this guy. You might want to catch up to him. Or if not, maybe he's dead on his own. A large part about playing solo, I cannot stress this enough, you are not going to be able to really take down bosses all too much. You do have the option of playing a soul hunter or a soul survivor, and you're able to kind of go into these matchups with a random loadout, and you're able to play by yourself, solo, grouped up in one of these matches. Now, in our experience testing, it was disabled and we weren't able to get any footage of that. But that is an option, that is a way to play, and I would highly suggest that if you are a solo only player and you're very competitive. Now, if you go into solo by yourself and you want to level up a hunter and try and get some of these skills leveled up, then you're going to need to go in and you're going to need to go to one of the extraction zones. That's really the only way to get outside the map. And if you go in, you want to try and kill some regular of these zombies. The special bosses will get you a little bit more. Some of the special units will get you a little bit more. And inside the trio guys, you will learn stuff. These guys are good. Inside this game, the community is very dedicated. And you don't really see a lot of team killing, or most of them play around each other. And you're going to see that a lot. And if you go down, don't worry. You can get back up. Some of these games that we play, like in Escape from Tarkov, you don't get that opportunity. And in this game, it's a little bit more forgiving. And whenever you go down, you're going to come back up with a little bit of HP loss. Now, how you get that back is what we're going to talk about next, which is the bosses.
So with the bosses, we kind of have our own order of easiest to hardest, and everyone's got their own list, but for us, we're going to start with the Butcher, go into the Scrape Beak, Spider, and Assassin. Again, that was the easiest to hardest. Really, the Butcher, he's just a flat-out, just weak boss. Really for Scrape Beak as well. Honestly, they're just competing for the easiest boss. Then you have the Spider, right? Very fast movement, shoots poison at you, and if you get close, will leap onto you. The Assassin right now is really the hardest. Sends out decoys, will blind you with bugs, and also can make you bleed. And so you're gonna have to take time out to run away, stop that bleeding in order to really come back and engage. But also going back to the HP loss. So in order to get any HP loss back in this game, and again, that is whenever a bar of health is lost, either from being downed or whether just from being attacked by other units in the game that you cannot heal back. You have to beat a boss. That is the only way to get that health back. And also, the zone that we start in at the very beginning, just in the very first moments of each match, is really important. You need to identify two things right at the start: your closest clues, and also what zone you are in. Now, it is random as you go into a match whether there is one boss on the map or whether there are two bosses on the map. If there are two bosses on the map, you need to identify what area you are closest to and what also that boss is. There are indicators at the top left corner of your map that will show what boss you are earning clues towards. Now, again, going back to our list, I would go for Butcher or Scrap Beak if you want an easier boss. If you want to go for a harder boss, go for the Spider or the Assassin. Assassin would be last on that list for us.
So we're going to go into the loadouts and customization. And now, guys, you can talk about this. We can talk about this for hours. But we're going to kind of go into some of the basic guns, some of the simple things that are attached to each gun, and a little bit more about what's important in the game. Now, for me personally, a basic loadout was really important. So the Winfield M1873 was a really good gun. High caliber rounds, or I should say it had a large magazine. Then with it being a 3-slot, you can have a secondary pistol. And with these small slot guns, you can have up to 2. I believe you could sometimes maybe even get a 3, but you would mostly stick to a 1 or a 2. And each trait would mainly impact on your hunter, would impact maybe what gun you're going to choose, what kind of loadout you're going to be building. Are you going to be using tools a lot, or are you going to be using consumables? And each one can specify how you're going to play. Are you going to play in a duo with high comms? You might want someone who has some range, and you might want someone who's going to push. And you would even see that in some of the clips we're going to roll, is how I would even take out a Spectre, which is a pump action shotgun, and Chubbulus would run a ranged weapon with a one-shot kill, maybe even. And a lot of that would tie into all you needed to do was land one bullet from range, and then you could go in and snipe him with the high-powered rifle that he would have. And inside the tools, you're always going to be running pretty much a melee weapon for no sound, a high HP medkit, consumables. You would need fire. You pretty much always need it, especially if you're playing in a group with no solo. You want to burn the bodies. You don't want to leave anyone up. You sometimes want to loot them first, but the safest way to play is to always burn them. And then a stick of dynamite and HP adrenaline. Very important. It's a simple loadout, but it gets the job done. And you don't want to spend too much time and money on your kit. You want to get into your hunter. You want to spend money on that.
And so there's there's so many options that you could go into here. For me personally, the Winfield M1873 Talon is my go-to because it incorporates also melee aspects to it that you don't necessarily need to bring in a knife or other close melee weapon because you've already got that built into the rifle, and it does heavy damage with it. Also, if you're going also for a stealthier approach, go try a silenced pistol. The Nagant M1895 silenced pistol is a very good option. And also, when combining that pistol along with my previous rifle, the Winfield 1873 Talon, because it uses the same ammo and draws from the same pool. And so going into legendary hunters and free hunters, it's really important to talk about it when it comes to customizations, because the free hunter is the game's way of giving you that freebie. Whenever you come out of a raid, whether you died or whether you extract, you always have the option to get a free hunter. It's a random loadout, but it costs you nothing. But keep in mind, you also have to have you also have to manage your money. And whenever you buy a hunter that maybe has more advanced weapons or has traits, that's going to cost more of your hunter money. And the same goes for the legendary hunters. Now, the legendary hunters, which can also be picked up in the DLCs, so there is somewhat of a pay to win mechanic there, that so you can go ahead and unlock that. There are natural ways to unlock it in game. There are some in-game currencies that you can earn through trials and through playing the game in general, through blood bonds, for instance, where you can go in and unlock legendary hunters. Legendary hunters, the reason why they're so important, not only do they look cool, but they also start off with 3 traits. Now, these 3 traits are random, but if you get one such as fanning, for instance, that is a huge trait to start off with. You could go in with a pistol and be really good just at level 1 with your hunter. So it's really important that to have legendary hunters if you can go in, if you have the money for that. And to touch briefly on traits, traits are skill sets that you pick up after surviving a raid and after you get a couple of levels with your hunter, because you have a leveling system that is for your whole account, but then you have a leveling system within those hunters, and within those hunters, that's when you get skill sets unlocked, and these skill sets will reduce damage you get from melee attacks, from explosives. They allow you to shoot from the hip faster, such as fanning, and will also allow you to keep aiming down sight, whether through a scope, whether through your iron sights, and so forth. It's based on those variants of the guns. So the trait system is very vast and allow you to do things that otherwise you would not be able to do, and you could really cater these. Lastly, the testing for the soul hunter. In our testing, we weren't able to actually try it out because the Soul Hunter is linked to the solo play, the quick play, so we were not able to test that in our...
Now, onto replayability. What we're going to be talking about here is how long you're going to keep playing, maybe after 20 hours, 50 hours, and 100 hours. You can always max out your hunter. There are several ways to play the game, but there might only be a few that you want to stick to, preferably. Are you going to play the game super slow? Are you going to sneak up on targets? Are you going to go all in and just go loud every single raid? A lot of that is important to note whenever you want to keep playing the game and again and again. You're going to keep getting money from your hunters. You're going to get your blood bonds to try and unlock some of these extra content. And that's a lot where maybe the DLC is important to you, maybe it's not. Maybe you like to go in and challenge yourself and be maybe go in with a broke hunter and have not a whole lot of gear and try and pick up these weapons that you can get off the ground after you kill the hunters. Because that is, after you get that, you can actually pick up their stuff. You can actually get a lot of, whenever you die, it's gone. It's out there in the world. You're done with that hunter, especially after you get burned. And once you start to get into some of the later in content, you can prestige. You can go into the ways to once you get so far into the game, you can actually get a new skin, which to some players might not seem like a lot, but if you keep playing the game and it gives you something to work towards, because in the game there's not quests, there's not anything like that. You go in, you kill the bosses, and if you get a real sense of enjoyment from the PvE PvP content that they offer, you're going to really enjoy this game and get a lot of worth out of it. And a lot of that comes back to the ways you can play the game. Are you going to be going in loud? Or are you going to be going in quiet? That all goes up to your play style. If you like to go in and just try and farm some experience from your player, to go in with a duo like your brother, like how it is for me and Chubbs, then that might be important to you to go into these games and build up a hunter and get all these traits in and build up for the next fight.
Next, we're going to be taking a very close look at the reviews of the current player base that they have left on Steam. Now, on Steam, you can break down the reviews multiple different ways. Bear in mind, the reviews I pulled are on 413. So if you guys look whenever the video is released, you're going to find that the reviews are going to be slightly different than what my numbers pulled, but the numbers that I pulled, out of the last 100 reviews, 80% recommended the game and 20% did not recommend the game. That is exactly how it came out. Last 30 days, we came out to 4,062 reviews, and that was 84% positive, garnishing a very positive rating through Steam. And as we finally look at all reviews, we're looking at 65,699 reviews at this time. That was 82% positive, and again garnishing a very positive rating. Overall, the game is reviewing very well, and as we move into our next section, we start to look more at the comments that were being left. This next section, we're taking a look at the most helpful comments that were positive. You can break down the comments in a certain way, and for these comments, there was a very recurring theme that pointed to atmosphere, immersion. It was generally a great shooter and offers a very unique experience. The game is a Western first-person shooter incorporating horror aspects, and of course you can't ever go wrong with zombies. It's always a well-received component of any game that has it in it. So again, great comments that are being left on it. And then as we move into the most helpful comments that were negative, keep in mind, guys, to be the most helpful comments, these comments are being upvoted. So there's a player base behind these comments that are agreeing with these comments. So keep in mind, these are just not any random comments. People have come together and upvoted these comments. Again, just keep that in mind, guys. For the most helpful negative comments, the reoccurring theme for those comments were devs were not in touch with the player base and were taking it in a different direction. Another most addressed comment was the game has a long learning curve, and as an honorable mention, there is a growing cheating problem. So just to quickly go back and touch on these, devs not in touch with the player base. This is huge, guys. After doing a little bit of research on this, I found that the game had more hardcore aspects incorporated into it, such as a darker night and bosses having more hardcore aspects, making them harder. For instance, the Butcher. When the Butcher entered into a critical state of health, I believe it was in the last third of its health, it adopted new mechanics such as flinging fire. And just to be clear, this was for the Butcher boss. Since then, those mechanics have been removed, effectively making the boss easier. In fact, the Butcher is one of the easier bosses, if not the easiest boss in the game. So just bear in mind, guys, the original player base was very hardcore. It was addressing a niche in the gaming industry, and to also point out the comments that are being left that were addressing these issues, for the most helpful negative comments, these players had hundreds of hours, if not thousands, multi-thousands. We're talking about over 2,500 hours. So guys, this is not somebody that's just left a comment and people just upvoted it, right? This was somebody that had extensive amount of time in the game, probably since launch or close to it, and have been playing it since the game. And then once the devs started implementing some of these changes and taking the game in a different direction, they started leaving. So bear that in mind, guys. And then also addressing the long learning curve. With this game in particular, and just being a survival and has more hardcore mechanics, that is to be understood. That just comes with the territory of this game. If you die, you lose your hunter, you lose your gear, you lose all that progress that you made, especially with the traits, right? You lose all that progress, and so it is very unforgiving in that fashion. So just bear in mind, it is a long learning curve, and it's also punishing as well. There's a lot of different aspects with the PvP and the PvE elements, and also managing your sound throughout this game, which make it, which I totally understand people leaving that comment of having a long learning curve. And then, of course, with the growing cheating problem, any game with an increasing player base is going to have a cheating problem. It just kind of comes with the territory, but I do understand, after doing a little bit of research on this, there are doing ban waves. Crytek is not taking this sitting down, so don't think that it's not being addressed, guys.
So let's get into a little bit about what Crytek has made up until this point in Hunt Showdown. Rise, Son of Rome, the original Far Cry, the first one that Ubisoft is known for, the Crisis Trilogy and their newly remastered version, and Robinson the Journey with VR, and their two most recent ones, which have gotten a good amount of success in the VR world, is the Climb 1 and 2. Each one of these has really good lore building, and that has kind of really shown itself in Hunt Showdown, is how nicely put everything is. They've built lore into this PvE, PvP background. Each of the monsters looks extensively gross. They look horrible, and that's the way they're kind of designed to do. And you see a lot of that in their games up until this point. Rise, Son of Rome being a great game back in 2014. It really set a precedent of graphics, lore building, and setting some of the foundations to what we would see in Hunt Showdown with the graphics and things of that nature. The Crisis Trilogy, everyone's kind of known about this game. It was really one of the better PvP games, multiplayer wise, and even now to this day they still have a meme of their graphic settings because it was so demanding, and that has really shown in in Hunt Showdown being a prime example. In Far Cry, obviously a absolute hitter. Still to this day, Ubisoft is known for this. It's one alongside Assassin's Creed. You've got Far Cry, and you can't really know Ubisoft without these two games. Nowadays, some of their old games, of course, but nowadays they focus primarily on Far Cry and Assassin's Creed. Now, onto some of their future content. We're also going to be looking alongside bug fixes and some of their hacker problems. So they want custom skins in the game, and that was given to them because the community voted for them. They get, every so often you'll see a community post about what skins they would like to see. You get to vote on what you want. They get community highlights, creator highlights, even Twitch drops occasionally, usually every 6 months. That started around, I think, the middle of summer last year, and then in December we got another one. They do keep posts up to date with the community and about with the most recent one being bosses and ammo. Trials, they implemented this. It's a good way to get players into the game because I've kind of been exposed to this, and so has Chubbulus. It is that these games are so tough to get into, and they are so, they're so demanding, and a lot of it you have to keep up to date in every single one of them. What patches, what good, and this one being ammo and bosses was their most recent target. These survival games also are a big hit with cheaters. As many of you know, games like Rust, EFT, and with Hunt Showdown, it is no different. The one thing that Hunt Showdown has a little bit above these games is a little bit of a kill cam. You can see where they hit you from. If it was from across the map, you obviously saw it. In our gameplay, we haven't really seen what would seem to be a cheater necessarily. That's been primarily because the gameplay in it is kind of hard to cheat on. You know, in EFT and Rust, because gameplay and gunplay specifically is so hard to get down and is really easily to be seen. You know, if you're getting sniped halfway across the map in Rust with an AK, you know, that's something to be questioned about. But in this game, not so much. The gunplay is a bit finicky at times, and that allows it to have like a little bit of a lower ceiling gap. A lot of it is about movement based, a lot of it's about good positioning, rather than just shooting someone in the head. There's a big difference between that. And future content is coming. I would not be surprised to see some more DLC skins coming. The roadmap is extensive. They have a lot of features planned that we really won't go into, but they have a lot planned. Ammo being kind of the main one that they wanted to get into. There's flechette, there's incendiary, there's heavy bullets to go through walls, and you see a lot of that nowadays in games is skins. I cannot stress that enough, that skins are now, it's crazy how much skins can be monetized, and in these games like Conan Exiles, where they're skinning the buildings. I never thought I would see the day whenever you can skin walls and things like that. So now guns are being skinned, but the community did ask for it, and they did get it. So now we're seeing that.
And as we come in for a landing, guys, we're going to finish out with our final thoughts and our conclusions about the game. And what I really like about the game is the atmosphere of the game itself, the Western horror aspect of the game, and just the first-person shooter experience. I think it's a great shooter experience, and there's a lot of different other PvE content in there that makes for a good experience. Now, as far as my reasons why I don't like the game, I think there's more that can be done with the PvE side. There's, as it stands right now, there's just very linear paths on how to play Hunt. You go in and you look for PvP, or you go in, you kill the boss, and because whenever you kill a boss and you get the bounty, you become shown on the map. It's very hard to just stay around on the map in PvP when you're just given such an unfair advantage, and so you're incentivized at that point to also extract. Not to mention as well, it's very hard for you to PvP because everyone knows where you're at, but also because unless you make it out of the map and extract with the bounty, you're not making a whole lot of money. So you're also heavily incentivized to make it out alive, and to also just keep your loadout as well. So for my score, I am going to rate Hunt Showdown a 7.6 out of 10.
So going into what I believe the game is about and kind of what I feel about the game so far is the atmosphere, the gunplay, and some of the co-op experience that you get with the game. I believe that, bouncing off of what Chubbulus has said, the gunplay feels great. It feels a little rusty at times, but I believe that's intended. It's old Western styled guns, and it feels good to shoot the guns. The guns feel impactful. Shotguns feel good at close range. The long-range weapons have a disability. They are single shot maybe, and they drop off at ranges. And the bosses feel intense. They get you a thrill, but aside from that, I'm going to go into what I don't like about it. That is kind of it. The bosses are the main gist of what you're feeling in the game. You get enveloped in this atmosphere, but you're so stuck around running from the first PvP fight, which usually happens at the first couple of minutes. You spawn next to another group that's aiming for the same clue as you, but then you're stuck running at this intramural, this pathway across the map, and you're stuck doing that for maybe about a couple minutes till maybe one of the guys gets close enough to where they can kill the boss. That is what I kind of have a struggle feeling with. I wish there was more dynamic events going on. I wish there was more going on around the map because you're enveloped in this Louisiana bio. I'd like to see that more harpered on and a little bit better experience in the map itself because it's such a beautiful atmosphere. It's such a horrendous aspect of the map that I'd like to see expanded upon. So for me personally, I'm going to give this game a 7. And from us here at BGN, what we're going to give the rating from Sir Chubbulus' score and mine, I PvP my kids IRL, is a 7.3. To wrap us up, guys, like, comment, subscribe, and tell us what you'd like to see more in the comments. and stay frosty, hunters.